Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ian Mann. I will be the chair today. I'm joined on the panel with Mr. Doug Marks and via Zoom with Ms. Lynn Nesbitt. The assessment department personnel today are Marina Tenuara and Jay Flood, who will be joining her as well. For administrative personnel, we have Ms. Phoebe Graywood and Mr. Stephen Lund here as well. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. It's probably not necessary since there's only one matter on the list. We will be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. Statements made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered as evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat itself for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all applications have been heard. The Board will then deliberate in private and make its decision. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. There will be one item on the docket today, that being item 6. Ms. Graywood, would you please swear in the assessors and the representatives of the applicant?
Tenuara, can you see your phone?
Morena Ganpika Tenuara.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Now this one. Can you state your name?
Teresa J. Flood.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Tenuara, I will be looking to you first. I'm not sure who's going to be presenting the brief, but you're the senior person here, so I'm looking to you first.
Yeah,
You'll be presenting it.
I'm presenting the entire evidence and answering the questions. She's in training. She's
Okay.
looking and observing it.
Great, thank you. Would you swear in the applicants, please?
Sure. Can you state your name? Diane Chimberman. You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And then Mr. Zarnowski. Can you state your name?
Justin Zarnowski.
And you affirm the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
And procedurally, I look to you, Ms. Schindelman. Are you going to be presenting the applicant's evidence, or is it going to be a joint effort?
It's pretty joint.
Ms. Tenuara, the only item left on the list today is street address 1371 Phillips Street. Can you direct us or lead us through your brief, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Phone number 11-110-07-62000. Property address 1371 Mackliffe Street. Property owner Moore Center Limited. Property valuation for 2025. Assessed value is 11,211,000. Property assets as a 60T, entire property as a taxable property. When I turn to page number 9. In my brief, you can see map, location map. And also you will see the Google view of the property. Page number 10, also the map and the Google view. It has the Domo gas station and our neighborhood shopping center, one building. We classified as the neighborhood shopping center. Page number 2. There's the list for subject property leases. Those are the leases available for the leases for the subject property. You will see lease range. In here, the only highest lease total unit size is highest unit size is the largest one is 9,785, which is rent collected $13.31. The newest lease is December 1st, 2022 lease, which is day rent collected is $11 per square feet. It's a range of rents you can see in that page. Page number 3 is the rent comparables. All the comparables located in the McPhillips Street, close proximity to the subject property. It's sizes wise is the range. I have 4 bigger unit sizes unit comparables. For 4,936 size units. It's a Goodwill store. It's a $12. They collect $12 per square feet. Newest lease is from out of those ones is 2020 lease, which is 4,966. They pay $15 per square feet. Conclusion is the rents in the range. It's vary from $26 to $12 for my comparables. Page number C, income value for gas kiosks. I think I review my briefs with the applicant's briefs. I think we both are in very similar. We agree to almost everything for the gas station. Final value, hers and mine is very close. We agree to every parameters, even cap rate, everything for the gas kiosks. We are not disputing anything. So neighborhood shopping center. All of the rents are model driven. 21,750, which is the biggest unit in this shopping center. This for the crazy bins. For the reference time, it was vacant, but later it get occupied. We use model driven rent of $11.83. Vacant state is we use $12. Based on that unit also vacant, we consider at that time. Vacant rate is $12, 12%, and I think that also we both parties agree for 12% vacancy rate will be the best comparable vacancy rate. Expenses model driven, cap rate is 6.35, model driven cap rate. Final value calculated 11,211,000. Page number 7 is a cap rate chart. It's a default chart for every brief. And page number 11 and 12. I attached the income expenses mailer for your information. So this is my presentation, and I'm asking to confirm the value tag. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Tenawara. Ms. Schindlerman, questions?
Yes. On page 3, I was wondering, do you have any comps for the large space, 21,750 feet?
For this brief, no. This brief I did not attach it. Because I tried to find the larger comparables within the size. The biggest unit I found is 5,565, which is $16.55. not bigger ones.
Right, and would you say that if you were able to find something for 21,750 feet? Sort of the general thing in rental rates, would that be lower than? Your $12 or your
Honestly,
$16.50?
it not be the lower. If I can find it, I can find it within the city. I did not try to find it within the city limits. I just focus on McPhillips area, that market region. If I try to find it, I would find some 11,000 units around. I know it's a fabric land, those kind of trends are available. Page smart, page value, fabric land, it's within everywhere in the city. Some are superior, most of them, those trends are higher than yours. If I try to find, but I focus on McPhillips.
And so when you did your valuation, were you aware that the property traded? I mean, it was a share transaction, but September 22nd for 7.86 million?
When I found the brief, no. But when I received your briefs, yes.
Okay, and so does that then change your idea of what this was worth April 1, 2023?
No.
So you pointed us to the cap rate chart on page 7, and I think you said this was a neighborhood shopping center?
Yes.
Okay, and so looking at the city of Winnipeg 20th to 80th percentile, it's 5.65 for 20th percentile.
Yeah, 20th percentile is 5.65.
And then the 80th percentile is seven cap.
Yeah.
And so your cap rate is 6.35, pretty much right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say you're assessing this as if it's pretty much like the average neighborhood shopping center?
Just looking at only that cap rate chart, I cannot make that kind of conclusion. Because if you just focus on the cap rate chart, yes, it looks like the 6.35 is in the middle, but there are many factors inside behind the calculations.
Okay, so I mean, I guess let me put it another way. If you had to say, is this 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th, 50th percentile, where would this fall in your this center? Compared to other neighborhood shopping centers in Winnipeg?
The where 6.35.
Sorry, though, I'm asking percentile, right? So the city of Winnipeg stats say 20th percentile is 5.65, 80th percentile is a 7 cap. In your opinion, where would this fall in that's quality of shopping center,
Because
right?
we cannot judge we are talking about cap rate, right? Cap rate chart, percentile is based on the cap rate. You want not know about general quality factor in which we fall into this neighborhood shopping center. That means you want to compare this neighborhood shopping center to one of the 1660 Keniston or 1211 Taylor, or that's your question is? Or you are focusing on the cap rate. I really don't understand what's the question is.
Okay, so I think you could agree that a cap rate is a measure of the risk of the property, right?
Yes.
And so if a property was in a better neighborhood, if it was newer, it would be less risky than if it was in a worse neighborhood or if it was older.
Yes, in
Okay.
general,
Yeah,
yes.
and so when we're looking at these, the 20th percentile cap rate, I think it would be fair to say that would likely be a better shopping center.
Of course.
Okay, so what I'm asking you is if you had to put this in the context of every shopping center in Winnipeg, every neighborhood shopping center in Winnipeg, where would you put it? Would you put it right middle of the road?
6.35, it should be, that's the data showing, it should be in the middle of the road. It's not my decision, it's that the data decided to put it.
But I'm asking you, what do you think?
It should be, because that's the calculation is.
I just have one more question about the larger space. Would you say that the space is about 37% of the whole shopping center? More than a third of the shopping center?
If we do the math, yes.
So would you not want to find a comparable, some comparables or something to support your number? At that size, or something closer to that size than 5,000 feet?
Okay,
I'm just trying to figure out how you could get to 1182 if you don't show any comparables.
okay, yes. 1132 is the model driven rent. When we do the math, it's a model driven rent. When I do the comparable search, I focus on what's units were occupied. But the reference time, there's a crazy bin wasn't occupied as our reference, our records. Then I did not focus on that one because it's the vacant unit. I did not go through and find out all the comparables for the crazy bin. When I received your brief, I read through the brief and I found out, okay, that's even though I consider this unit is 11,000, that one is vacant, no, it's occupied because this is the information and this, and then I realized, okay, I did not put the comparables here because I found out from your brief, this is crazy bin to go over the space after the reference time. So that's why I did not put, if I know crazy bin is occupied, it's occupied unit, 100% sure I will put my comparables here. I know we have comparables within the city. And the other thing, I focus on mathematics. When I do, I solely focus on mathematics comparables. I did not go to find out those ones. Yes, I should, but if I know, I didn't know until I see your brief.
So now that you have seen the brief and you have seen what it rented for, would you suggest that it should be different than 1182?
Yeah, it's a post reference rent of $6 per square.
Okay, perhaps it's not, but I'll look at that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, okay. So I just have one more question about the model driven 1182. There must be a comparable in the model or comparables in the model that support 1182, but you didn't include them.
I did not include them. I know. We do. We do cranes. For within the city, we have lots of cranes, range of 10,000 square feet to 30,000. That range. We have crane comparables. We have lots of, it's a Pet Smart. Those ones. The Toys R Us, Pet Mart. Most of those ones that we in this range. We do comparables, but I did not focus on those ones, putting into my brief as an evident piece.
I think we're fine, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nesbitt, any questions?
Yes, I did have a question. I just wanted to confirm, Ms. Tenawara, that the average rent per square feet, could you calculate that for me? The average.
Okay, average rent per square feet for using my brief, model driven, $14.58 per square feet.
Okay, thank you. Looking at your comparables, and I noted what Ms. Schindelman said about the largest property at 21,000. So I'm not talking about that, but I am looking at your comparables compared to the subject rents that you've used, and all of them, with the exception of one, are higher than your average. And so many of them are in that $16, $20, $26, $23, $20 range. Compared to the subject, which the highest is 25, and then it goes down to 18. So do you see these as representative of the subject leases? They seem to have higher rents. Is there a reason for that? Comparing that to your model also.
Okay. When I do the comparable search, my focus is mostly one thing, the location, the other thing, the size. I try to find the comparables within 4,000, 5,000 because 2 units are around 4,000 and 1 unit is 9,000. I try to find the comparables in that match on the size. Then I found 4 comparables for around 4,000 and high and 1,000 range. Yes, those are rent question is really hard to answer because it's a rents are range. We cannot find exactly 100% match rents because that's why I put the range of rental rates. My rental rates it varied from $12 to $26 and close proximity. I don't know if answer is sufficient. It's really hard to tell about. I picked this range because of this one. No, we see it as a big picture. So this is the range of rental rates.
Are they the same types of premises?
Yes, it's the same. Yeah, you can see. It's not 100% same size, but it's retail stores. It's most of the retail stores. They are same type. I would say it's the same type.
Okay, so when I'm looking at your model, I'm looking at, sorry, I'm flipping around pages and it's taking me a while. Okay. Okay, all right, I don't have any other questions. Oh, I do, just this expense rate, is it model?
Yes, everything is model.
And did you bring any evidence to support the 3%?
No, I don't, because I attached the income expenses made up. Other than that, I didn't.
Okay, so you didn't bring anything. Okay.
I did bring the income expenses made up from the subject property. That's
Is the 3% model?
yes, 3% model.
Okay, thank you. I have no additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Marks.
My question's been asked and answered. Thank you very much.
You weren't aware of the sale in 2022 that was a share transaction sale. That's what you indicated when you filed the brief?
I did not aware any sale transaction when I filed.
Do you check land titles or the share sale would not have gone through land titles?
I think share sale does not go through land titles. That's why, because if it went through the land titles, it should be in here as a sales records. Because these are automatically generated when we run the brief. That's how system are generated. Because I didn't aware anything until I see the applicant's brief. I believe we didn't go through land titles, but I did not do any research about that to find out. Then I cannot answer 100% accurate.
Okay. Thank you. I have nothing further. Ms. Schindler.
We have a very small rebuttal.
Okay, well, we'll hear your evidence first of all, and then we will move to the rebuttal. Has that rebuttal been received? Yes, received. No, it should be okay. Great. And if you can move to your brief, please. Following your presentation, the questions will deal with rebuttal.
Thank you. On page 1, this property is located in West Kildonan and it was purchased, as mentioned before, in September 2022 for a price of $7,860,000. There is significant deferred maintenance. Several sections of the roof are due for replacement. The neighborhood shopping center, we look on page. Right, on page 13 at the end, the neighborhood shopping center is Northgate Shopping Center. And what they did was they blocked off the access. If you look at the top of the site plan here, you'll see that there's a little, in the middle of the drawing, you'll see there's a concrete barrier, it says. And at the bottom is the right in from the north going south. And so, or left in. if somebody travels down here, they used to be able to go through that concrete barrier, drive aisle and get to our shopping center. But because the Jollibee has so many people in their drive-through, it was causing congestion on this roadway going west. And so the neighboring tenant, Northgate Shopping Center, put up a concrete barrier. And so now the access to our shopping center is blocked. So in order to access our shopping center, someone would have to go all the way down this street going west and get to the blue arrows and then come into our shopping center. If you're coming either from north or from north. So that has been a problem for us, and that changed since the last assessment time. So now the access is not ideal.
And so what ends up happening is, and the reason we did the Crazy Bins deal, was if you have a national grocer, you have somebody who, you know, can take this type of space, your Winners, that type of tenant, they expect access off of a signalized intersection. And so, and to them, having to drive all the way around and back doesn't count. So we weren't successful in attracting that quality of tenant, and we ended up signing a transaction with Crazy Bins at a low rent. What Crazy Bins is as a concept is everything you return to Amazon, they, instead of, it actually doesn't go back to Amazon, they just sell it in bulk to these operators. Crazy Bins is one of them. If you go there on Thursday, you can buy any item for $10 or something. You know, Friday it's $5, Saturday it's $2, and then the rest of the week it's $1. And it's like a lottery. So it's not a good quality user, not, and potentially also not a long-term tenant, because if Amazon can figure out how to deal with that waste issue, then their entire business doesn't work anymore. It was really just a stopgap until we had hoped we might be able to you know, talk to Northgate and figure out a way to resolve this traffic issue, but unfortunately we haven't been able to.
So on page 2 is the income approach. This uses the actual rent in place. And it's supported by the 2 rent roll charts of actual rents, as well as on page 6, the market comparables. As Marina said, we agreed on the other parameters, 12% for vacancy and 2% for the gas bar. The gas bar, we are basically agreeing on the shortfall at $9 per square foot. We've used, oh, sorry, that's a typo. It's not management on page 3. It's actually called non-recoverable now. The 5% is because we have a number of gross tenants. We have a number of deferred maintenance to do that won't be recoverable. And the 3% didn't cover that much. And so we had to increase it to 5% to be a little bit closer to reality. We've used a cap rate for the shopping center portion of 7%. This is the top of the range of the 80th percentile. But this property warrants that because of the access, because of the tenant mix, because of the many years of vacancy of the large space, which is possible to go vacant very soon again. And there's just so much risk involved in the shopping center compared to even, for example, the comparables used by the assessment department that are grocery anchored, like the Superstore anchor at 2136 McPhillips and the Save On anchor at 1399 McPhillips. This is not an anchored shopping center. The resulting value is $7,886,000. Page 4. As I mentioned, we've used actual rents. That is what an investor is getting. They're getting these actual rents. And you can see with the starred items that the third tenant down, Pennington's, or it's also called Reitman's sometimes, depends on, I think it's Reitman's right now.
Reitman's owns Pennington's,
Right.
Although we actually ended up parting ways with them post reference, but existing physical condition, there's a East India grocery store that's getting built out in the space. It was a challenging moment. We took it over.
And that space is on a gross lease, and then the last space at 211 is also on a gross lease. At the time of the reference date, it was 43% vacant. You can see it there. On page 5, we actually added the additional rent roll that was for January 1st, 2023, because there was some changes. The Crazy Bins deal was done at that time at $6. So that is prior to the reference date. So we wanted to include the actual most current rents that were in place at the time. Once again, the Crazy Bin space is more than 1/3 of the entire shopping center, so it's a huge risk for the operation and the value. Like we said, it's a fairly volatile tenant at this point. And there's very few tenants that we've been able to find to lease the space. Space also has a little bit of a second floor, and the second floor houses the three tenants at the bottom of the rent roll. It has an elevator. It's a huge expense to run an elevator up to second floor for this, what is it, less than 3,000 feet or about 3,000 feet. So that's also a bit of a risk for the shopping center. The second floor is really mezzanine from the original building. That was a grocery store years ago. So it's not even a real second floor, it's a mezzanine actually. On page 6 are the market rate comparables. We were able to find a number of comparables within the range of the largest one. So the 947 St. James is actually the same tenant. And they're at $9 on St. James Street, which is a great street right by Polo Park. And 1371 New Phillips is the subject, but the deal was done right before the reference date. The other comparables are some are right within the area, and some are just similar type tenants, similar sizes, and they support the actual rents that were in place at the time. This shopping center is a huge vacancy issue for many years. I can see on page 6, 45%, 45%, 39%. We used 12%. We did finally lease the large space. However, it's reflection of the number of years that it's been a large vacancy. And this tenant is only on a 5-year lease with a clause to terminate. As mentioned, we used the same shortfall analysis. And on page 7, regarding the non-recoverables, that we used 5% instead of 3%. If we look down to the third paragraph, it refers to what's deficient and needs to be done. And there's a roof repair for $131,000 that needs to be done. And if we go to page 11 and 12 is the roof report showing what's left to be done and some quotes and costs. These quotes are actually from 2020, so we would have to increase them for what they are. They're, as everybody knows, expensive, but gone up a lot in the last couple of years. The capitalization rate, we did add a premium to what the assessment department was using. Has to do with the condition of the property, the access issue, and the risk involved with one tenant being over 1/3 of the whole property. And again, it's a risky tenant. There's poor access. The mezzanine tenant spaces are not typical or favorable in this retail type development. So we use that 7%, which is indicative of what we're dealing with here. Property was purchased at about an 8.1% cap on the net operating income at the time through a broker, through
Colliers is the broker, but that was based on their calculation of stabilized NOI.
Page 8, this evidence supports our market value of the subject property at April 1, 2023, $7,886,000.
I mean, we're really good at real estate, but not a $3.5 million lift in 7 months. Good.
On page 14, you can see a picture of the barrier that we used to have access to, but we don't any longer.
It actually says new on it. No entry.
And page 18, the same thing. You can see the Jollibee, and they're the problem. They're too busy. And then on page 16 shows our income statement for 2022. And clearly, the income is not there to support any higher value.
Thank you.
That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tenwara. Questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the time of the sale, is there any appraisal report done for the prior to the sale?
Sorry, is there any more
Appraisal report,
appraisal?
yeah, done for the sale, prior to the sale,
Either.
you don't know?
We don't typically do appraisals. It's
Okay.
not,
Discount store, Tracy Beans, the lease actual rates for $6 per square feet. What is the actual date for the lease start for that?
so their lease would have started February 1, they would have had probably 3 months, actually, based on their use, maybe 2 months of fixturing. But the lease start date, it's on page 5, as February 1, 2023. And if you look at the note, that's when they took possession. So typically leases start on possession.
What is the cap rate based on the sales?
So using, I mean, cap rates there's so many inputs that go into them. Using Collier's stabilized NOI based on what they had done up pre-sale, and then the purchase, I mean, it's stabilized always means adjusted,
Yes.
but it was 8.1%.
Okay, sure. And page number 4, print hole showing larger space, which is occupied by Tracy Bean, is vacant at that time.
So yeah, it's February 21, 2022, it was vacant, February 1, 2023, they did.
That's all my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Questions?
Yes, actuals were used on your calculations.
Yes,
And with the 5%, would that roof repairs would come under that 5%?
A number of tenants would be paid the roof repairs. They would be non-recoverable. There's 2 gross tenants for sure.
and
There's a number of them.
as soon as you start leasing to the Dollar Trees and the TD Banks of the world, your non-recoverables tend to go up. They have professionals who are reviewing what they have to pay for, capital repair exemption. So the 5% isn't just roof. It's sort of call it an estimate of the grief you get for those quality of tenants.
Contingency fund that,
Pardon?
almost a contingency fund.
No, I think it'd be closer to a reasonable estimate of how hard it is to collect anything capital from. So you fix the facade, you fix the parking lot, anything kind of permanent. Those tenants at least push back on paying for and often are successful in negotiating down. So it's non-recoverable expenses over the long term.
Yes, like on page 4, it says Dollar Tree has a cap on their, but on their recoverables. So it's usually a calculation with CPI or something like that as well.
Thank you. No further questions, thanks.
Ms. Nesbitt.
Thank you. I also just have a question for you. When I looked at your rent roll and your model, which takes from your rent roll, I was trying to come up with an average and I pulled out the numbers, but can you confirm what the average is excluding the gas kiosk?
Sure. So the average rent, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
You've got it, right? Isn't that-
Oh, it's 11.8. Oh, no,
I mean,
that's the
it's not
gas
vacant
part.
though? Oh.
Yeah, that's the gas part in it. So, I'll just calculate it.
And I have to tell you, I did the number, but I just need confirmation I did it right.
Yeah, okay, good. Hopefully I can do it right. And then so 3 minus 90.
But this is, yeah, I mean, this is weighted for sure. So just look at the numbers. It's not a straight average, it's for sure, weighted average per square foot, rent per square.
Okay. Okay, let me just do it.
So,
I used a square feet of 59,507 because I took away the 96 for the gas bar.
Right,
And I used rents of 708,353 minus the 17,005 for the gas bar.
right.
Did it by 59,507. I got 1162. So what you got?
11.6. I got 11.62 also, so thank
There
you
you
for
go.
confirming that. Just needed to make sure. And I don't think I have any more questions. Thank you.
Some questions, Schindlerman, about the cap rate calculation with respect to the 7% as requested or used in your calculations. When you began doing the calculations, or you told us that Collier's calculated the cap rate at 8.1%. That cap rate would have been calculated prior to the lease with Crazy Bits.
Correct.
Right, and the cap rate then would of course change because the net operating income would have gone up. Correct. So did you redo that calculation to come up with the 7%, or was there other calculations involved, or was the 7% selected as a result of the 80th percentile?
So when you're buying commercial property, the broker will do a stabilized NOI. What they'll do is they'll say, okay, this space will take 6 months to lease. And we think it'll get $9 a foot. So what actually would have likely happened is our NOI probably would have gone down. Because we got $6 a foot instead of what they would have stabilized it at. So it's not necessarily doing this deal raised our NOI. It actually probably the Crazy Bins would have lowered it. Even though that might seem counterintuitive, when they stay stabilized, they mean something like what this property will look like in 1 to 3 years. It tends to be a rosier picture. But the reason we're using a 7 cap instead of that 8.1 is just having a tenant there, even paying low rent does lower the risk model for sure.
Collier's acted for the vendor though, is
Yeah.
that correct? And who acted for the purchaser? Did they have their own assessment done? Because the vendor is going to have their own motivations to have certain cap rates.
Yeah, well, so the vendor's broker always has an incentive to have the stabilized NOI higher than the actual NOI.
Yes.
That's why they stabilize it. So this is a property Junico bought for our own account. So we didn't retain a broker because we don't need one. That's what we do. But we would have done our internal pro forma at this price. But we actually don't use cap rates when we do investment decisions. We use IRR. And the reason for that is cap rates are really kind of variable on your assumptions, whereas IRR is our return that we're getting on the money that we're putting into the project. And so when we do our investment analysis, we don't, the cap rate isn't something we use. People ask us, oh, what cap rate did you buy it at? It's not an answer we give because it's not how we analyze investments.
So the 8.1% cap rate that you present to us by your account is irrelevant to the decision of the investor.
To us, yeah, it is.
And then the 7% cap rate that you are requesting was derived how?
So we looked at, we have get the same reports from CBRE and Cushman and said, okay, if centers like this are trading from 6 to 7.5%, this is certainly on the bad end. The neighborhood and the demographics compared to your Kenniston's, your Bridgewater, is worse. The kind of the style of tenant is worse. It's not grocery anchored. We don't have the benefit of that co-tenancy with the Northgate Shopping Center in a meaningful way. And so this is the type of center that just attracts more risk. More risk means a higher cap rate. And so we used on that range a higher cap rate and use the 7%.
And that 7% is pretty much the top of the cap rate that the CBRE.
I mean, it depends on who you ask.
Sorry, between the 20th and the 80th percentile.
For the city, yeah.
80th
Yeah.
percentile.
And I mean, I'd be comfortable saying, if you put this on the range of centers of this size, approximately in Winnipeg, it would firmly fall on the bad side, closer to that, that 80th percentile, it might be higher than that.
Thank you. I don't think I have anything further. That you had indicated you had some rebuttal evidence to present.
It was really, it's just, a comparable for the,
Just stop.
Oh,
for a
I'm
second.
sorry.
It hasn't been distributed.
oh, I'm
One
sorry.
second. Have you seen a copy of the rebuttal evidence? So perhaps we could distribute it and just take a minute or two to look at it. One page.
One line on it.
It's, yeah, there's not much.
Have you distributed it to the very bottom? Ms. Nesbitt, have you got that now?
Nope, not yet. Hang on. Gotta just get it.
It's the new evidence.
Sorry, this is
New evidence.
yes, it's a rebuttal to the market comparables
For what?
for the 16,000 square foot area that you here.
But it's, I cannot understand how this information related to my information.
So what we're saying is there actually were
This is
comparables.
actually- I consider this is as a new information.
Okay, well, I'm going to allow the rebuttal evidence. We will proceed as far as the presentation goes. You'll have some questions with respect to that. In discussion, there'll be a question of weight with respect to the rebuttal evidence.
So we're trying to
Yes,
proceed. Okay.
please proceed with the presentation on the rebuttal evidence.
The rebuttal is simply because there was no comparables in the assessor's brief for the 21,750 square foot space. I was just rebutting that it's not 11.25, it's in the $6 range. That's
And
all
that-
this is.
And that there is an availability of this data, it's just, it hasn't been provided.
Thank you. Ms. Tenuara, questions?
Honestly, I don't have any question based on this one. I seen many of the evidence, rental rates in this range. But I did not choose to put it here because I didn't know about that the residents occupied this location. So I don't have any question, but to me, this is a new information.
Thank you. Mr. Marks, questions?
None for me, thank you.
Ms. Nesbitt?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Where's the location of 489 London Street geographically in the city?
It's at the corner of London and Monroe.
West Kildonan?
Thank you. I don't have anything further. Ms. Tenuara, summary?
I will kindly ask to based on the application, confirm the value as. That's all right. Thank you.
Ms. Schindelman?
And yeah, and I mean, our view is, we purchased the shopping center very close to the excuse me, the reference date. I think you should put an awful lot of weight on that. It was an arm's length transaction. And, with a view that, if there's some adjustment, it would be pretty minor for the 7 months between that purchase and the reference date.
Thank you. Have you heard the evidence? That will conclude the matter and we will deliberate and know our decision.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concludes the matters on today's list and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thanks.
Well.